episode 3 of the Switched On podcast with myself, Sheep or Brennan Hoof, and Pomps 226, also known as Stu. Let's get into the big thing of the week, in what was kind of a slow week for video game news, and that's going to be Tears of the Kingdom. Very positive reviews all around. Pretty sure I know IGN gave it a 10. Think it was pretty much 10s and the highest scores across the board pretty much. Everyone seems to be loving it. There's some great videos getting out and about, some great streams around of it. One thing I did see was released, I think it was release day or the day before release day. A few reviewers and that were streaming it and got in a bit of trouble, including Australia's own Lana Pierce.
Yes, I did see that. And she wasn't actually streaming the game. She was streaming a video from YouTube of someone else who had played it, and that was actually promoted. That video that she was watching was promoted by Nintendo themselves. So it seems like they made a mistake in their DMCA, which is bizarre, but whatever.
I did see a post earlier today from her saying that she was going to go stream some of it. Hopefully she doesn't get banned this time. Making a bit of a laugh and joke about it, which is always seems to be her way of doing things. She does have a bit of a laugh and a joke. One great thing that I did see though with it is both Sony and Xbox, or PlayStation and Xbox, both giving a congratulations in tweets out to Nintendo on the success of the game. Xbox, with their tweet, said it's good to be back in Hyrule. Congratulations at Nintendo America on Tears of the Kingdom. With PlayStation also sending out "Have fun up there, Hellions." I think that's how you say it.
Hylians, I think.
Hylians, yeah. But
that
you don't see very often. I mean, Xbox are kind of known for it a little bit, but
well, it's an interesting talking point, I suppose. Like, do we think that either one of them would have done that if it was Xbox or PlayStation, respectively, who had a big release like that? Do we expect that if PlayStation had a big release like that Xbox would be congratulating them on it? Or are they congratulating Nintendo because they both accept Nintendo as not big enough competition for them, not a threat, so they don't really care when Nintendo has a great release like this?
To be honest, I think I could be reading way too much into it. I think from Sony's point of view, it might be, a bit of a publicity stunt trying to, maybe win some people over after some bad press this year. I know Nintendo, Microsoft and Xbox have been known to do it for PlayStation. I'm pretty sure they did it with Ghost of Tsushima, maybe Spider-Man as well. I don't recall PlayStation ever doing it for Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, I guess both PlayStation and Nintendo, both being Japanese companies, there might be something to do with that there. It's interesting that Sony or PlayStation released their congratulations first.
I didn't actually notice that. One thing I did notice was the amount of likes per post at the time of the screen grabs on the article over IGN. Which actually kind of surprised me. I would have thought Xbox would have been up there with the more likes on that. But I mean, that's a nothingness really. It's not really even a talking point. It's just something that I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But like big congratulations to him, because it seems like it's going to be out there as a game of the year winner, I would say, if not a very, very strong contender.
Look, they always seem to knock it out of the park with Zelda. Breath of the Wild was just the same, you know. Just
I was really excited to play Breath of the Wild, and I couldn't get into it. And that's
yeah, right.
It wasn't the gameplay or anything. It was the art style of the game. I just wasn't a fan of the art style of the game.
Okay, sure. I mean, it's popular art style. Like Genshin Impact copied it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very popular, and I don't think I've ever really been into those ones. There was what was the one that EA made about 10-15 years ago? Mirror's Edge. There was a similar sort of animation.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone raved about that game. And I was really keen to get into it. You know, it was that parkour style.
Yes, that's
game.
right. Yeah, they made 2 of them, didn't they?
Yeah. I think. And I jumped on it and went, I really don't like this. And I don't think I realised why until I played Breath of the Wild, and I went, I like the game. The gameplay's great. The storyline's great. I just don't like the art style.
Yeah, sure.
It's a personal preference. Nothing against the game whatsoever. But yeah, just I don't play many games like it, and haven't since. But again, I am willing to go back and give it a shot. Try and finish it off and go and try out this vehicle that's in Tears of the Kingdom, because that looks fantastic to play around with. I watched a couple of videos of people turning them into flying cars and all that sort of stuff. So I'm interested to go and give it a shot anyway. Not that I play much of the Switch these days.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much use it for Pokemon, that's about it. Anything else you want to add on that? On Tears of the Kingdom?
No, I don't think so. I think it's great to see Nintendo still able to have very successful releases and very successful games like this, because it's very important for the industry, I think, to have that third competitor.
Yeah. Well, in saying that, one bit of news I did see, which I didn't really think was too worthy, but since we're talking about the Switch, their sales have dropped for the Switch over the last 12 months, and they're expecting them to drop again over this year. But they still said like it's going to be another year or so before its successor is even unveiled. Which, I mean, if you're at the point of you know your sales are dropping, you can see your sales are dropping, you're expecting them to drop for another year, would it not be ideal to now be the time to go, well, here's the Switch Pro?
Right.
Like, it's been hinted and hinted and hinted at that it's in development.
It will be very disappointing, I think, if they unveil a new console next year and it's just the Pro version of the Switch.
That's what I mean. Like, now would be the time to go, okay, we're gonna this time next year we're gonna release the Switch Pro, give that a year or two, and then go, boom, here you go, here's our next-gen console.
Yeah, the problem is that their hardware is left so far behind the current gen consoles that we have that new AAA titles are just struggling to run on Switch, and that's holding them back.
Yeah.
Games that are made specifically for that hardware, no problem. But it's now not becoming very viable to play a lot of new AAA titles on them, and that's only going to continue to get worse until they can release either a pro model or a new console that can actually handle new games.
Well, that could take us into 3 different stories.
Yeah.
It really could. We can go off and talk about the Asus handheld console. We could go off and talk about Hogwarts Legacy. So, there's something else that I was thinking of. Something popped in my head while we were talking then that I'd seen to do with the Switch. But it gets away from me. Well, let's talk about the Hogwarts delay then, since we're still on the Switch. Obviously, it's been announced that it's been pushed back till November, I think.
That's right. I struggle to remember the exact date.
November 14th.
14th, yeah.
And that's a big pushback for a game that's still 2 months away from, or a month and a half away from where it was supposed to be released.
Mm-hmm.
But as we spoke about before we jumped on tonight, that if they're going to get it right, and we get to the point that they have with the PS4 and Xbox One versions, that it'll be a good thing for those Switch players that are going to have to wait, unfortunately.
I think so. And look, they released it on PS4 and Xbox One about a week ago now, and so far it seems to be running really well on those systems. Really well, we should caveat, is still PS4 and Xbox One kind of performance. You're still not getting the next gen kind of performance. Just scaled down, you are putting up with around 30 FPS rather than 60 to 90. And it is a scaled down resolution. It's not running in 1080p on either console. It's running in 720p on the Xbox and 900p on the PS4. But it's still very stable, and they haven't had to cut back on anything in the game to make it playable. So that's a good thing, and they've clearly shown that by pushing back the release a few months, that they were able to make sure that they came out with a release that really is stable and is going to make people who play it on those consoles happy and not going to feel like they are struggling to play that game on their hardware, which I suppose it's lessons that have been learnt for the industry from releases such as Cyberpunk's, which probably should have gone through a similar process but didn't, and that's when we had so many issues. So I think good on them for pushing back the release to make sure that they get it right.
And I hope we see more of it.
Yeah.
I also think that maybe we don't announce dates so early.
Yeah, perhaps they should perhaps they should have said, okay, here's the PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC release dates, and then there will be versions coming to other consoles at a later date, but we're not going to provide those dates at the moment. That might have been a wise thing to do. I still think what they did is better than just trying to push out the games on the originally scheduled release dates, but you might be right.
I just find that sometimes you'll get I don't know, we're looking at ep3 or Gamescom or even the Video Game Awards with Jeff Keighley that they're all pushing for big announcements, and one of the major announcements is release dates. When can we expect this game? And then everyone gets disappointed. And I understand from a business point of view that people want that release date out there because then people are going to want to pre-order it, and it's money in their pocket before the game's even released.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's almost creating a divide between consumer and developer. In that sense that the consumers are starting to get pissed off, for lack of a better term, at the developers for all these pushbacks. And it's okay for I wouldn't even like to guess how much, but for the side that we're on, where we don't mind because we'd rather a better product. But there's obviously a group of very vocal people out there that seem to get very agitated and annoyed.
I think there also needs to be better communication between the industry, the publishers, and the retail sector, so that they have a limited amount of time that they're taking pre-orders before a release of a game, which they already do, but that if there is going to be a significant delay, that delay happens before pre-orders are taken, so that you don't end up with a situation where someone has pre-ordered the game and then a few weeks before they're meant to get it, it's pushed back by 6 months. I think these kind of delays should happen, prior to people being able to pre-order.
Well, that happened with the first Dying Light game.
Mm-hmm.
I had it on pre-order for months.
Yeah.
And it came out in February, and I think it was announced at E3 the year before. And they did this whole pre-order it, you get season pass, blah blah.
Yeah.
Or no, you got something with it anyway. And I went in on the release day, the original release day, and they're like, I know they pushed it back by 3 weeks.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, well, there's no communication.
Yeah,
and back then I wasn't big on Twitter and checking video game news all the time, and the algorithms weren't there on social media to push that content towards me to be able to find it. But
yeah,
I mean they were pretty good about it because it was short notice. Like it was like the day before release. They went, "There's something about this game that's broken. We can't release it." And everyone that had it on pre-order ended up getting the season pass for it.
Yeah, and that kind of thing can be okay too if a developer shows, they're willing to give a bit of compensation or whatever for delays and that kind of thing. I do think they earn players respect for doing that kind of thing. I know, for example, playing Genshin Impact, that every time they have to take down the game servers, even just for maintenance, they give compensation to the players, regardless of whether or not you've even played in the last 6 months. You get the compensation, that's really well received by the player base generally.
A lot of those kind of games, especially the mobile ones, do do something small like that every time there's maintenance. There's a few there that I was playing for quite a while that I'd log in every day and they're like, oh, we had to do 20 minutes of maintenance last night. Here's X amount of gold or a load of diamonds or here's a load of free this, that, or the other. So that's... I mean, it is what it is, but the other part then goes hand in hand, maybe kind of, with that sort of stuff on the communication side of things. Leaks. Obviously, we've just had we've had some big leaks over the last few months. Some still proven or to be proven whether or not they're true or not. Some have come to fruition, some have obviously been proven off as hopes, but the latest ones being the Mortal Kombat leaks for what's supposed to be Mortal Kombat 12, but apparently we're going to be calling it Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah,
it seems a bit of an odd choice.
It does. It's of course not the first time that this has happened with a popular game series. For example, a recent example is the new Modern Warfare games.
Yes. Well, that's a bit of a contention, really, isn't it? Because they're kind of modernised remakes of the originals.
Yes and no. Yeah.
I mean the story's changed.
Yeah.
But that's only to bring it into a modern era.
Yeah. They're not remakes though they're not remakes or remasters in the traditional sense that those terms.
There is remastered versions of the Modern Warfare.
Suppose you can say that they are rebooting the series in a way, but it still is confusing to say, I really loved Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Well, which one?
And what do they call it? They actually call it Modern Warfare 2018, don't they?
Yeah, and the original one is technically Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, but again, if it was Modern Warfare 2, I think they actually have exactly the same title.
When you look it up, and I have looked this up, because I was looking at the comparisons between the two games over Christmas, story-wise, and it actually comes up with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2018 2.
Right.
but the 2018 being in brackets, even though it was released in 2022. But I think it was 2019,
right.
It might be 2019 or whatever it was anyway. But
right.
I actually enjoyed that game, but that's besides the point.
But I suppose it's the same thing here, that they are essentially trying to reboot the series, so to speak, and reset their numbering. Yeah, it is.
Because I mean, if they're going to reboot it, that's going to take away a lot of that story that's been built up over. When was the first one? 93, 94. The first Mortal Kombat game was.
I think so. Around that time. Yeah.
And that's a lot of story. That's 30 years worth of content that you're now going to take away. And for guys like myself that have played all of them, and are quite invested in that story, that's going to be a bit of a change to get used to. But at the same time, I understand kind of where they're coming from. In the sense of, bringing a whole new generation into the Mortal Kombat world.
We see this happen so much in television and movies anyway.
Yeah,
I've never been a fan of it myself, but it's been happening for a while now. These kinds of things in media generally, kind of reboots, remasters, remakes. Yeah, and some people are a fan of it. Some people aren't. There's undoubtedly markets though for these things, and they want to bring in, as you say, a new audience, and for them the way to do that is to kind of reset, I guess.
Do you think we're going to see more fighting games go down that route?
Possibly, because it's a section of the market that has taken a real hit over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years.
Look, I reckon fighting games are probably as big as they've ever been.
Maybe in terms of raw numbers, but in terms of proportion of players on any console, either Xbox or PlayStation, I imagine that the proportion of players is way, way lower than it was during the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 eras, or original Xbox 360 eras.
I think you're fine, because you got to think back then there was only the big guns, the arcade ones that come to the table with Konami and stuff like that. So, your Virtual Fighter, your Street Fighter, your Tekken, your Mortal Kombat, and that was kind of really it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you count things like Smash Bros and all that. But now we're seeing a lot more. And especially in the esports space.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the biggest selling Mortal Kombat game in the franchise was the last one. Was Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah.
There's been huge news and people getting very excited about the new Street Fighter game.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we're getting Mortal Kombat leaks that seem to be, big on the list on the news stories. At some point, once they've released Mortal Kombat, it comes from the same studio, which is I forget what Warner Bros. Studio it is.
I don't know.
It's going to bug me too. But they'll end up doing the next Injustice game.
Yeah.
Which is also a very, very big selling game for Warner Bros. Studios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose the market has expanded a lot. I was thinking of the traditional arcade style fighting games. I thought that's what you were talking about rather than fighting games more broadly.
Well, I mean they're all under the same banner in a sense. I mean, you've got the Dragon Ball Z fighters or whatever it is. Like each one of these has their own tournaments that go on around the world all year round. NetherRealm. NetherRealm is the developer.
Right.
Obviously off the back of Mortal Kombat. And I think that video game fighting games, I don't think they've ever been as big as they are right now. Especially when you look at it, especially when you look towards the esports space.
Yeah, potentially.
I mean, you're not really a big one on those fighting games, so you might not really pay that much attention to it. But
it's not very good at them.
Neither am I, but I enjoy playing them. I enjoy when they have story modes and stuff like that, and you can have a bit of fun with them. and all that sort of stuff. Let's briefly talk about Tenacious D's new single. This is fantastic. Obviously running off the back of Peaches. If anybody hasn't watched it, please go and watch it. It's over on YouTube. It's about a minute and 30 seconds long. It's great animation. It's a great song. Jack Black just smacks it out of the park yet again. Thoughts on that?
Oh, look, I mean, he references so many games. I don't know, whether he's coming from a place of having played all these games himself, or if he just has played a few of them, and he's using the rest just to kind of fill out the lyrics. I don't know, but either way, it's great, and I think yet again he's being a champion of a particular part of society that doesn't always get looked at in the best light, and that can only be a great thing because everyone loves Jack Black,
Yeah. And of course Henry Cavill as well. Also being in the news this week and something you brought to my attention earlier.
Yeah, this was only a few hours ago actually, but he said that he would rather play video games on his own than go out, and maybe not all of us know, but Henry Cavill is well known to be an introvert and well known to be a gamer, but yet again we've got another big name throwing himself behind gamers, and that's a great thing. I think we're getting to a place where gaming is being more widely and generally accepted in society, and that people don't have to hide the fact that they're gamers, and that's good.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's have a chat. Hogwarts. Not Hogwarts. We'll talk about that. Activision.
Yes.
This is a bit of an interesting development coming around. Apparently they have hired the Queen Elizabeth's former lawyer to lead their appeal over in the UK. And I think they'd hired someone over in the States to deal with it there or something as well. I think I read.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, they've just got a legal advisor over in the States who made this point. Now I did have a look at the tweet that this guy put out. About this Lord David Panic. I'm not so convinced by his high profile clients. I'm convinced by his work, don't get me wrong, but not by his client list. Like Queen Elizabeth. Pretty sure she didn't really need that much. Pretty sure it's probably just legal counsel more than helping her with too many court cases.
Yeah.
Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson during the Partygate scandal.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately,
that was almost indefensible, though.
Exactly. But
it's not his fault.
It was his fault. Let's face it.
No, I mean not the lawyer's fault.
No, that's right.
No. That's what I mean. It's very hard for the lawyer to defend that.
Former BBC Director General Mark Thompson. If you don't know the story on him,
there was a lot of inexcusable sexism and racism things going on at the BBC that they cut a lot of heads off for, and he was at the top of that list. And Man City. Even though he's got Man City off, what they're doing is inexcusable. That's something we're going to leave for maybe our sports podcast when we get around to doing
that. And again, this tweet doesn't really specify in which cases, and we haven't had enough time to look this up for ourselves. That's doesn't true. Specify in which cases this lawyer has represented those clients. So, it could have been this lawyer might have represented Man City in their case against the European. I can't remember the name of it, but the case that they won to overturn their decision that was brought upon them by UEFA basically a few years ago. I think that was 2018, something like that.
But they're the decisions that probably should have stood. Really? Like.
Well, I mean,
there's a reason they were.
Look, I don't think we're necessarily in a position to comment until we find out more about the investigations brought upon them by the Premier League.
That's probably something we should leave for the sports podcast. That's not really a video game thing.
Yeah.
But what do you reckon Activision Blizzard's chances of getting this overturned are?
I've heard rumor that there's a possibility that this will get approved by the appeals court next week, but who knows? What I've heard, and again, this is just rumor, but what I've heard is that there may be some kind of compromise that is reached, which, is probably what is to be expected. But either way, I understand the what the court are trying to do here in terms of stopping a monopoly, and it's not as if Microsoft are new to this. However, the cloud gaming market is not the primary market in this acquisition, essentially, but it is a significant enough portion of it. Obviously, the CMA believe it's a significant enough portion that it warrants blocking this acquisition.
Speaking of that, is it strange to you that we can get Microsoft streaming through Game Pass here in Australia, but we can't get Sony's PlayStation now?
Yeah, I don't know why Sony have done that. They've always maintained that not enough people's internet is good enough in Australia. I don't think that's true anymore. It's possible in heaps of places around the country now to get gigabit NBN, and you don't even necessarily need gigabit NBN to do game streaming, particularly if you're not streaming in 4K. So I don't know why Sony are maintaining that position. I suspect that the public position of it's to do with internet in Australia is not the whole truth, but so I don't have any idea what that is.
I thought I also heard that it was server space or server.
Yeah, it could be, but yeah, the fact that you can get Nvidia's game streaming as well here. It's pretty much only Sony that aren't offering their game streaming in Australia, which is quite bizarre. But
Because I'd pay that extra to get it. Especially with the library that's on PlayStation now. Or what was PlayStation now.
Yeah, it's certainly
3 games on the PlayStation Plus.
I was looking at the differences again between I think it's premium and deluxe.
Yeah.
The two top tiers that we have in Australia. I was looking at those again yesterday, and I have deluxe personally, and I actually don't think it's as good value as I initially thought it was, because they haven't really continued to update the classics library, and the only other thing that you get with it is the game demos, and they're not really that substantial either. It's just a few hours. So the extra that you pay for it per year, which is I think about an extra $20 or $30 per year, I'm actually not sure it's that great value for people, and probably the premium tier, the middle tier, is going to be the best place for most people. Whereas if yeah, it does. But if you have the game streaming included, essentially what used to be PlayStation Now, if you have that included in the premium tier, even if that premium tier then costs a little bit extra than it currently does, I do think that's a much better value proposition for most people, because there are heaps of PS3 titles, for example, that can be streamed on those.
That you can get.
Yeah, rather than just all PlayStation 1 games, which is most of what the classics catalogue in Australia currently is.
I wonder if the Platinums would... You'd get the trophies for games that you've already got Platinums on.
No, I'm not sure about that.
Interesting. Go get a third. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Platinum.
So, do you think that this potential for Microsoft to have a monopoly in the cloud gaming space, do you think it is a real threat?
Look, I'm not sure. I don't really see cloud gaming being a huge success. I mean, maybe it's too early for it, and maybe potentially down the track this could become a very big issue.
Yeah, I have a feeling that it's one of those things in tech that isn't really ready to be mass market yet, but as soon as it is ready, it could completely take over the industry and become massive. I mean, we've seen a similar thing with AI recently that, wasn't ready for a long time, wasn't really getting anywhere. A lot of people were saying, this isn't really getting anywhere. Meanwhile, you have people who know a lot about AI who are saying, hang on a minute, when this does come, there are going to be a lot of concerns about it. You should be ready for when it does. And then as soon as there was, a large language model in the case of OpenAI with ChatGPT that was really actually finally capable and powerful in certain ways, it became enormous. And I think probably the same thing will happen with, say, self-driving cars, for example. They're definitely not there yet. It's going to take a while for them to be there. But as soon as that technology is ready, it could be a couple of years and it's like enormous, you know.
And we have seen this kind of thing with the video game industry before, like we've seen with the PlayStation Vita and the PSP the PSP, ahead of their time, especially the PSP. Such a great little handheld console, but it was probably about 4 years too early.
Maybe, but then unfortunately that kind of portable market did die off for a while, really, or at least
the Switch has come out, and
yeah.
Then we've got the Stream Deck, which we still don't have here in Australia, and to the next point, Jesus.
Yes, so finally got kind of all of the specs for the ROG Ally as of yesterday, I believe. And it looks great. It's priced very competitively to the Steam Deck. Basically, you're paying about the same price for the ROG Ally as the Steam Deck that comes with the most storage. So it comes with a kind of comparable level of storage, and in most metrics, the ROG Ally outperforms the Steam Deck, and then on top of that, you get way more access to games, as it can run Windows. So yeah, you basically can have a way bigger game library that runs better, screens a higher refresh rate, all that good stuff. There are a few drawbacks that we've heard of. Hopefully, some of those get fixed at some point, but it doesn't seem like it, because it seems like it's practically ready to release and they've been built at this point. But there are a few issues with some of the buttons and joysticks and stuff like that. But on the whole, it seems like they've done a pretty good job with it.
Would you be interested in getting one yourself?
Yeah, so I had never really thought about it with the Steam Deck. One, because we couldn't really get it here, or you couldn't get it legally in Australia, and I wasn't really sure that kind of performance would be acceptable for that price. Whereas now, I think the ROG Ally has pushed it just far enough that it might make sense. And I think it's a better gaming system than, say, gaming on a tablet, for example, which might have comparable performance if you have a powerful enough tablet. But it's just a better form factor for gaming, I suppose, even though the screen might not be as big.
No, I don't know much about the Asus one. I had seen when they sort of announced that they were looking at it and all that sort of stuff, but I haven't really kept up with it. So you know more on the spec side of things, but from a Steam Deck point of view, that is definitely something that I was interested in, because I was sitting there thinking to myself, this would be fantastic. I can sit on the sofa, I can, go back over the UK, I can sit on the plane, I can sit there and play on the Steam Deck, I can be smashing out some Payday 2, or, anything else that runs through Steam. But it sounds like this one could be a hell of a lot better, because we can run Windows through it, which means I could pretty much put anything on there.
Yeah, basically. And, all of the games that you currently own that aren't in your Steam library, you have access to those as well, not just the games in your Steam library. So it definitely opens up the possibilities. In terms of performance, it's running in most games in the higher performance modes. It's running somewhere between 10 to 20, 25 FPS average, better than the Steam Deck, which is pretty good. It's not as efficient in its low power modes, so it doesn't run. Curiously, it doesn't run as well as the Steam Deck does in low power. So if you're using it for gaming on the go, like on public transport, long public transport journeys, long train rides, that kind of thing, and you're you have access to buy both of them, you might still prefer the Steam Deck. But if performance is important to you and access to a larger variety of games is important to you, it seems like the ROG Ally will be a better buy for most people.
What do you reckon running Blizzard games on it would be like? Obviously, a lot of traffic would probably be very, very hard with the button mapping. But
yeah,
let's say Hearthstone or even Heroes of the Storm, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something that doesn't need a huge amount of button mapping.
Yeah, so from the reviews that I've seen, getting the on-screen keyboard to work on the ROG Ally is currently not great, but that is a software issue that can presumably be patched pretty soon.
Yeah.
You would hope, anyway. So I think for games that are a bit more reliant on keyboard and mouse layout and wouldn't ordinarily work very well with a controller, I think you're still not going to find that a great gaming experience on the go. But games that already, like PC games that already work well with a controller, I think you'll find that they run great.
Yeah. What's it like to add peripherals?
Yeah, pretty well, I think. So it doesn't come with a trackpad like the Steam Deck does, which may be a drawback for some people. But I believe pretty much through its USB-C interface that you will be able to add a bunch of different peripherals. I mean, at some point, if you're adding lots of peripherals through like a dock or something, you may as well be at a desk on a PC.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, you know, if you are on a long flight, you know, maybe it'd be handy taking an orb weaver or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, running Windows 11, it's going to give you lots of different options in terms of peripherals that you can use.
Yeah.
I believe. So I think you're going to have a better choice of peripherals than you would get on Steam OS.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think, again, if that's a concern of yours, then probably the ROG Ally is going to be a better choice as well for that.
Well, it's pretty exciting. You know, that state of the market is heating up. You know, especially if we're going to be looking at getting a new Switch in the next year or so. And
I haven't actually checked to see if the ROG Ally is being released in Australia, but I imagine it will be.
You can get Steam Decks over here. Like Australian retailers are importing them. But obviously that comes with warranty issues and all that sort of stuff. So that creates issues on its own. And if the Asus is going to be the same, well, it's going to be difficult. The chances of getting one in the next.
Yeah, okay. Worldwide availability beginning June 13.
Oh, there you go.
They will sell out very quickly, I believe.
Yeah, I would say they would.
To anyone out there who's interested in getting one, you might want to look at possibly pre-ordering or buying one as soon as they come out.
Yeah. What's the release date on it again, sorry?
June 13.
A bit late for me anyway. For the long flight that I may be taking.
Right.
So I've only got two more little things to talk about. Diablo Season Pass. They've released the price point for it for Diablo 4.
Right.
They're going to be running these much like we've seen in Fortnite, Fall Guys, all of that sort of stuff. Kind of a battle pass type thing. It's going to be running for 3 months. And each class will get 2 full cosmetic armor sets, weapon and armor cosmetics, seasonal mount and mount armor, and 63 additional tiers. So I'm assuming that's on top of the 3 tiers for each one. And they're based at that's a $10 US, which is pretty standard. So it'll be about 15 bucks for Australians. They also have their
well, actually, on that point, don't assume. There's another talking point. We should get to that afterwards.
You're very right there. But it's usually the price point they fall at. Knowing what Blizzard are like, they try to stick at a reasonable price point. That the stuff that they release is never over the top expensive.
Yeah.
And it's usually really well made stuff, even if it's mostly cosmetic. Usually getting what you pay for. They're also going to be doing their accelerated pass at $25 US. I wouldn't even want to guess what that would be. Probably 35, knowing what we pay usually for passes over here. You get all the perks of the premium pass, plus it immediately unlocks 20 tiers, and then you get Wings of the Creator emote.
Yeah.
So obviously it says here that the accelerated pass is geared towards anyone who starts the season late, or just trying to unlock tiers for a boost. Some perks unlocked through the season, like unique items and powers join you in Diablo 4's base game after the events wrap up, along with its monetized battle pass tracks. Blizzard also says it's planning a rotating assortment of gear for Diablo 4's cash shop. Items purchased in the shop are purely cosmetic, and class cosmetics are available for all characters account-wide. Season 1 is yet to have an exact date, but Blizzard have noted details around its theme will be discussed after the launch on June 6th. Which that's a bit worrying. Like, I know people are going to want to just play the game, but there's going to be a huge amount of people, knowing Diablo players, being one myself, that want to just get into the seasonal content.
Yeah, look, I personally wouldn't be someone who ever spends that kind of money purely on cosmetic items. I saw the same thing recently with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. They're charging $30 Australian for the deluxe upgrade, which again only contains cosmetic items, and that's for a single player game. Yeah. Where you're not even showing off those cosmetics to anyone. I just don't think personally that these things would ever be worth it. But obviously for a huge number of players who play Fortnite, for example, paying a little bit for those cosmetics is worth it. And in comparison to spending thousands of dollars like some quote unquote whales do on certain mobile games and on, FIFA Ultimate Team, those kinds of things, maybe it's not really that bad to spend $20 or $30 on some cosmetics.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going after the season pass, I understand doing it. Right, especially when you're looking at getting the mount and although it is only cosmetics. By the sounds of it, there is kind of an MMO portion to this game, much like Diablo Immortal.
Mm-hmm.
But as for the cash shop, I can see that just being like the auction house of Diablo 3. I can see it dying very quickly.
Yeah.
I really can. But we shall see. There's only one way to find out, and that's going to come on June 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm very excited about. It's going to be a busy month, June, with that and the new Final Fantasy game on the 22nd, your birthday.
Yes. And for those who are wondering what I was talking about with not assuming the price, I saw that they had finally released a standalone version of Marvel Spider-Man Remastered for PS5, so you could buy it separately. You didn't have to buy the premium version of Miles Morales to get it anymore. And they announced, and they didn't specify which country that this was for, but they announced that the upgrade would, if you owned any version of the game except one that came through PlayStation Plus, would cost you $10. So if you had bought a digital copy of the game, if you'd bought a disc copy of the game, the upgrade would cost you $10. I put in my disc since I owned it on disc, checked it out, and the price came up as 25 Australian dollars. Now, I thought this was very strange, of course, because they only advertised it as $10. They didn't advertise it as $10 US. They didn't specify that the price was for the US market. This was a graphic that was put out even by PlayStation Australia that said it was $10 for the upgrade. And that obviously wasn't the price in Australian dollars. I went on and did a quick conversion. $10 US at that time was converting to about 14 Australian dollars. So basically they were charging people an extra 11 Australian dollars for no reason other than the fact that they were in Australia. Again, GST is only 10%, which would be $1.40. So $15.40 is what should have been the price. So maybe they could have got away with charging $16.
That's the thing, though. We're getting our bumhole ripped out of us on video games in this country.
Yeah.
I laugh when they talk about, you hear the podcasts from, IGN or Kind of Funny Games or Play, Watch, Listen, that sort of stuff. And they talk about, the price point of the current gen games going from $50 to $60. And our games have gone from like $100 to like $120, $130. In some cases, like Gran Turismo was like $140.
I think it's more than that. I think it's $150 plus for the deluxe version.
I bought the deluxe version. I paid $155 for it.
Yeah.
And that was crazy. I don't know what I was thinking. I very much enjoyed the game, but what did I get? $1 million in game to spend.
Yeah. In most cases, it's not worth it. I bought the standard version of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and I'm certainly glad I didn't pay the extra for the deluxe version. So the last time I went to play it, the HDR issues that I was experiencing haven't been fixed. I understand that some general performance issues for PC users have been resolved.
I did see there was another patch released overnight or yesterday morning.
The last I heard about the HDR issues, they are aware of it and they are investigating, and that's all I've heard about it so far. The HDR issues seem to be different depending on which TV you're using, which is odd. Some people aren't having HDR issues at all. Some people are. It's very odd. most games do not have this kind of problem, or if they do have HDR issues, they tend to be the same on all HDR TVs. But yes, this is a very strange and unique case. And I don't know quite how the game got through all of its QA successfully.
Well, maybe they just didn't have that issue come up on the different TVs and that they used.
Well, I'm not just talking about the HDR issues, but performance issues generally. And I sent a video to you and a few screenshots to you of other performance issues that I was having on PS5, and obviously people have had a bunch of issues on PC, and I would expect that they would have been running the game on PC on different PC hardware during the QA process, and I don't really understand how they didn't spot this stuff, or if they did, how they green lighted it. And as they pointed,
sorry to interrupt. When was the last time you jumped on
it? Yeah, it wasn't in the last few days.
So on the May the 9th, they rolled out an update that was specifically to fix PS5 HDR issues.
Okay, well, I'll go and try it.
That was on the right screen. That was Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. In any case, on the QA process, I think that the official apology letter that they issued, saying that it was, problems with people running high-end PCs but running Windows 10, for example, that was debunked by a major news organization, I believe, who went and tested it and found that actually the game ran better on Windows 10 than it did on Windows 11. So there was purely garbage, basically, from EA, just spouting stuff out of their ass as an excuse for their own problems. Yeah.
Developers still think we're dumb.
Mm-hmm.
With Twitch and YouTube and all these people that just... It's what they do with their life. They spend time just going, well, you're full of crap.
Mm-hmm.
And make content out of it. Don't even make content out of it. Just do it for the fact that they can say, well, you're lying.
What? Yeah.
And I don't see the point of it. We've got a mate that we play with occasionally that does something similar at times. And it's like, what's the point? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just shut up, be honest, and let's move on.
Yeah.
That's all it needs to be.
Yeah. And that apology letter that they did issue was ridiculous in so many ways. That was just one of the silly things about it. But it's not good that such a major publisher as EA thinks that they can get away with hedging their apologies and all these kinds of excuses and lies in this day and age, because, as you said, they should know that even the average gamer nowadays will see right through it. And certainly those who are informed, and the news agencies and all that kind of stuff, the IGNs, etc., are going to pick this stuff apart. And they did.
And it's... I don't know. It's just going to keep going, I suppose, until we get to a point when we actually take a stand and stop buying their games, or stop pre-ordering them, or we do something to actually say to them, look, we've had enough of your shit, basically.
I think we are getting to a point now where fewer people are pre-ordering games than than in the past. There was a time when you could pre-order games and you would be fairly sure that they would run great. There wouldn't be too many glitches or crashes, and if there were, that most of that stuff would be fixed in a day one patch by the time that the game was released. And that's just not the case anymore. Yeah.
I mean, I will only pre-order games now if I'm very sure of the game,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm getting some big collector's edition like the God of War Ragnarok, where I've got like the Mjolnir hammer and stuff like that, like that's, or Gotham Knights. Wasn't 100% sure about that game, but I really wanted the statues, so I didn't give a crap. It was worth it.
You can probably buy those things on eBay though a couple of months after the game's been released.
I've got the box for it. I've got all that stuff. Like you can't really see, but all up on top here are all the boxes for all my statues and consoles and stuff like that I currently use. So I like to try and keep boxes, being a bit of a hoarder and a collector that I am. Our last point before we go, which is Fall Guys adding a creative mode, level creator, and changing up their battle pass, which is interesting. I wouldn't mind getting on and actually having a look at what their battle pass looks like. But the level creator going to be fantastic. We're going to see some really wild levels, I think, come through.
Yeah, I think so. I think with Fall Guys, it reached a point where it was a great concept, but it was starting to stagnate a little bit. And since Epic Games have acquired it, it's come on leaps and bounds. I think they've added new game modes, new maps, and this is just the next step that is keeping people playing it, and will keep people playing it for a long time to come. I think it's a great move.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's not something I really thought about, but at the same time, once I sort of read this article, I was like, why was this not in the game before? Like so many people that play like Minecraft or these kind of games, or even back to the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games. Like, so many people just go onto these games because they love creating.
Mm-hmm.
They love being in control and going, oh, we can do this. And you see it with GTA as well, like with the races and stuff like that. Like, there's some really intriguing stuff that you can do, and I think this is the perfect platform for that style of
absolutely
thing.
Yeah.
And I actually can't wait to jump on and actually have a play around. And what are you doing after this?
I haven't figured that out yet.
I might actually jump on and have a bit of a play. It's like that and going back to the NBA. But I think it's fantastic. I can't wait to play some of these levels. I don't know what depth it goes into.
I suppose stay tuned, guys, and we might be streaming Fall Guys at some point in the near future.
Maybe in about half an hour for me. I do love Fall Guys. It's fantastic. I was a little bit disappointed that it didn't quite have the sticking point that like Rocket League and that had when it hit the PlayStation Plus, and it blew up when it went on PlayStation Plus that first month.
Absolutely, it was that kind of game where you played it for the first time and you just thought, wow, this is something else. But then after a month or so, when nothing new was happening and there wasn't actually that much depth to the game at that point, it started to become actually quite boring. But now with added game modes, added maps, a bit more variety, you tend not to play the same maps each time you play. It's a lot more interesting.
There's a couple that you can do, one of the game modes, which is you basically like it only puts like a handful of people in, and anybody can win from round one. Basically,
right?
Races, all elimination rounds.
Yeah.
So you can basically just win a crown on the first level.
Yeah.
And I did one of those, and there's only about 3 levels that they put in rotation on there. And I got the same level for 3 rounds in a row. And everyone just kept surviving each round. Nobody was getting eliminated. It was frustrating as all hell.
Maybe I spoke too soon.
I'm just not playing that. But there's a few levels, like even when the 3 or 4 of us have played together, that we seem to keep getting over and over again. That one way you've got to pick the right portal and get to the next stage, go down the slide, and you follow the maze. But they've got SpongeBob stuff on there. Distracted by shiny things. I love my ADHD. But yeah, I'm really excited. Really excited to get into this. It's going to be fantastic. As soon as we finish this, I'm going to go and grab myself a drink and have a smoke, and I reckon I'm going to jump into a bit of Fall Guys. Because this has got me really excited. The most exciting thing I've had happen to me all week.
Yeah,
it really is. Oh, jeez, I live a sheltered life. I sit in front of this computer for way too long. Alright, well, we'll wrap it up there. We will probably... I'm just trying to think what's next week. Next week we'll probably be back at our normal time in the morning.
I think so.
If depending on your schedule. The week after might be a bit iffy. We'll know by next week what the week after is happening. That wasn't even English. That's terrible. What we're doing the week after. Might be off to the UK if my team get through to a playoff final, which fingers crossed they do. The amount of injuries and stuff like that we've got at the moment, I'm not liking our chances. But first legs tonight.
And shout out to Peterborough United. Peterborough, the place of my birth, 4-0 this morning.
Yep. It could be a big weekend at Wembley. Big weekend. And of course the NBA finals on at the same time. Lakers through to the conference finals. One series away from the big dance once again.
For those of you watching who aren't sports fans, apologies.
Yes. For those that do watch that are sports fans, we are going to be starting a sports podcast as well. Might wait for the new seasons to kick off, maybe around August time. With,
or shortly beforehand with transfer news and all that.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. So mostly probably be talking about soccer, but we'll probably throw some basketball, some wrestling. You're not really a big baseball fan, so we probably won't touch on baseball too much. Australian rules doesn't interest either of us, so sorry to all the Australians that want to listen to us talk about the hand egg.
Maybe MMA and boxing.
Yeah, MMA and boxing. In saying that, KSI's got a fight coming up. So big shout out to KSI. Good luck in that one. And